first, or is it, or Matt, are you going?
Yeah, I'm gonna go first. I'll kind of tee up Matt.
Okay, very good. It's all
Um,
yours.
okay. It looks like my video is not working. Sorry, I don't. Can you see me?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I have a face, I promise. I'll just skip it for today. I don't usually work with Microsoft Teams. Can you see my presentation?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, hello, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Andrea and Gina, and of course, Brad, and thanks, Matt, for accepting the invitation. My name is Will. This is my company, Green Projects Group. Matt and I are going to talk about education and electrification. I'm kind of wondering, how do we invite people into this conversation? How do we invite utility customers into this conversation? I'm devouring Electrify by Saul Griffith, and also just started Crossing the Chasm, which is about marketing and selling disruptive products. So, my perspective is that of an entrepreneur in this space. I used to work for Franklin Energy, and then I worked for a lighting distributor, and now I work for myself and kind of look for ways to just sort of get people moving towards energy efficiency or electrification. My business is at sort of an inflection point. Um, so I've been working with lighting, but I'm technologically agnostic and I just want to make a difference. So that's where Matt and I started talking. This presentation is definitely less sophisticated than the other ones. I'm not a researcher. I don't have any data for you. This is just kind of my experience with the program that I designed, which exists firmly in the electric energy efficiency space, but I think it has implications for electrification. So I'll try and breeze through this, and I'm just going to tell you how I'm trying to convert these customers from enthusiastic energy efficiency customers to maybe start thinking about electrification. And I'll give you a preview. It's leading me to think more about education than I have before. So my name's Will. This is my company. I live in West Michigan. We work with electrical utilities to further lighting savings goals. We've done some multifamily and C&I projects as well, but we're probably most well known for a residential service called the Free Light Bulb Program. And basically, I started this program by going door to door, and there's just a quirk in some utilities applications that allows for third party payment for residential lighting products. So I started in Holland, then we added Traverse City, and then a number of other utilities. It was a big success. People loved it. I was able to give them their light bulbs immediately in exchange for a signed piece of paper. We've expanded to a bunch more cities as well. So how it works is they just fill out a form. Basically, it takes sort of a headache-inducing process in the sense that you have to read paperwork and go find your account number. And we just put it in an easy-to-use form online, and it just reduces barriers to access. I don't know, thinking about Andrea's image of the fence being removed, if we were able to remove the fence altogether, but we definitely are trying to walk people in that direction. So then we just source and ship the LEDs. They don't have to go to the store. And then we're, of course, reimbursed by the utility. So these are some of the cities that we've worked with. And the reason that I'm doing this, that we're doing this, is we're fueled by a passion for sustainability. And we want to increase adoption of energy efficiency. And of course, there's lots of utility benefits, lots of energy saved. We make their programs more effective, and we're a helpful, friendly ambassador. Um, so that's pretty much it. A couple reflections, and then I'll kick it over to Matt. Um, I'm an entrepreneur, and this is just my qualitative experience. But the reason that this free light bulb program exists and the reason that it was successful is because a few utilities took a chance and experimented with us. So I think it's worth mentioning that the third party payment mechanism is sort of a more of a fluke than a universal thing. But from that one little fluke came a lot of innovation. And so I think if we, as policymakers, people thinking about this, utility managers, deliberately build in frameworks for creative innovation, we can be really, really successful with the next phase of our transition. And by that, I mean electrification, of course. So I think that in tinkering with how to transition my customer base, so all these people have raised their hands and said, we're interested in energy efficiency. I want to start talking to them about electrification. I advertised the class in partnership with Matt, and it 100% flopped. So that's why and I probably didn't do a perfect job of advertising and marketing it. But I don't think that the general public is too familiar with the basic premise of electrification. I think that we need to invest a lot more in customer education, and we need to do so with urgency. So let's all start or keep brainstorming. Obviously, call me, call Michael's Energy, call Matt, and let's put together some experience, some pilot projects, and they might just be wildly successful. So I will kick it over to Matt.
You're muted, Matt.
Can you all hear me all right?
Yep.
Great. Let me share my screen. All right. Can y'all see my screen okay?
Looks good.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, just first a shout out to William. It's been delightful to get to know William, and I think we've been brainstorming a little bit about the work that he's done, and I just really respect the relationships he's got with thousands of citizens involved in these programs, and I think it just gives us, he has a really unique insight into what real life is like, and I appreciated the presentation I just listened to, and the sensitivity y'all as a group have to the real human beings we're trying to serve. So I appreciate it. I'm going to go quickly through this and then just open it up to questions, because I don't want to talk at you. I'd rather talk with you. Spent about 25 years in mostly education work, and 15 of the last 15 years I have been tinkering with electrification, specifically building electric motorcycles, and then recently working on a project in California where we have now built the largest battery power plant that relies on used electric car batteries. And then last week, a microgrid project that I've been involved with just announced $1 million grant from a local community foundation where we are putting solar and storage on 85 nonprofits and houses of faith in and around New Orleans to serve as day-to-day relief for their energy bills, and then in the wake of storms that they can stand up what we call community lighthouses, so they can be cooling centers and food and medical supply distribution points for eventually anyone within the city walking less than 15 minutes to one of these sites. So that's been a real joy, and I'm starting to do the class that I'm talking to you about in a second with some of the members of these congregations and community groups, and that's a really cool development in this story of My Next Electric. So we know what happens at My Next Electric is it's an opportunity to talk about this complex topic in the context of your real life. It does not matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter whether you rent or own. It doesn't matter where you are on the process of electrifying your life. It's just my inner middle school math teacher's desire to create a safe space to talk about a hard topic. So I want to talk a little bit about what's highlighted in blue here at the bottom of the screen, which is a 1-week crash course that Will participated in, and that is sort of the meat of the order when you think about what we do for folks. So how it works, it's a week-long experience, and the weekend before, I will send you a pre-read. Right now, we're using Rewiring America's home electrification guide to give everyone a sense of, what are these major decisions that I have to make as someone either renting or living in a home that I own about electrifying my personal infrastructure, the vehicle I drive, solar and storage if I can afford or have some role in making that happen on the building I live in, and then the appliances that I use. So Monday is a 1 hour live Zoom session where we talk about those basics and everyone kind of gets a rough idea of where they are on their journey. And I think the one distinguishing feature of the course is we really focus on giving people a safe, less than $100 baby step to take. I think so much of the work and resources in this conversation about electrifying personal infrastructure is predicated on what I just heard y'all talk about as a group, is that, you know, if you have the money to spend on an EV, or if you have the money to spend on solar, or if you have the money to subsidize, even if it's a PPA leaseback solar install on your building, you probably have to own that building. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense that, you know, we have a variety of doors that we could build to have folks enter this topic. And the only doors that have really been bid out are ones that have $20,000 to $30,000 price tags on them. And so what the basic idea here is, there are $50 doors into this topic. For example, a $50 induction stove that you plug into a 110 outlet, and you can start experiencing cooking with induction at a very, very low entry point. So my belief as again, my inner math teacher is saying, my job is to help someone understand a topic they may not find compelling. I'm going to pick that every day over trying to browbeat them over something they might not have access to, for example, an EV that they just can't even think about affording. So that's at a high level what this is. We've been really informed by Saul Griffith's work on Rewiring America. And if you haven't read his piece on 1 billion machines, the link here is there. And I'm a big fan of the way Saul writes about this work. And he just really breaks it down. And I really appreciate how he does that. And so the way we frame the work is, we all know this math. It's that roughly 60% of the energy we're generating now is wasted. And if we replace all those fossil fuel machines in that sequence, we can, you know, really live off of 40% of what we're generating now. What's really amazing is 40% of those emissions come through the personal home, whether it's multifamily, that's a different spot, but just the single family home or a 1 or 2 unit home, a detached home, 42% of US emissions are related to that personal infrastructure, which is a really, you know, unique leverage point as we think about the whole flow. So we use this guide, and then we help folks walk through it. And then we really focus on the fun and affordable stuff, not the expensive and boring stuff like efficiency or HVAC. No disrespect to those two things, but they're just not that much fun, and they're really expensive. We'll get people there, but we start in the bottom right of this 2x2. The 3-day course is what we call Low Res Monday, where we understand this big picture and we create a really grainy, low res, like Space Invaders resolution image of what you might want to electrify in your life. And you pick one fun, affordable thing to do that week. And then you tell the group about it on Friday's show and tell. In between Monday and Friday, you do a survey of your home. You take pictures of your appliances, you send them to me. I give you some feedback on what is this thing, how old is it, what kind of unit it is. So I spend a lot of my week squinting at photos people have taken in their homes, just explaining that that's a gas water boiler. No, that's a heat pump water boiler. No, that's an electric resistance heater. Just really sort of demystifying this for folks so that by Friday they show up, they feel like they are capable of navigating this topic, and they have taken one really fun baby step. One of my favorite Friday sessions was when 2 folks who had never met each other from across the country had a competition to see how fast they could boil water on their new induction plate stoves. And one of the members of the first class, actually to this day, a couple months after taking the class, she sent me a photo recently. She has a gas stove in her kitchen, and she has her $50 induction plate sitting right on top of it, and she hasn't cooked with gas since. And so, you know, what we're trying to do is just create a fun space for people to acknowledge that this is a hard topic, acknowledge that it's something they want to work on, and probably most importantly, you can save a ridiculous amount of money. You know, when we electrified the average home, we're saving folks between $2,000 and $3,000 a year in fuel costs once we get to that fully electrified state. So I think that I'm a fan of Machado's poetry, and you know, I think the idea behind this is that we invite regular old folks to come in and, you know, make the road by walking it, which is what this Machado quote translates to. And for me, it's a really fun process to invite folks into the topic and say, how can I help you understand this topic? And how can I, in relatively short order, make you feel competent and confident in navigating what will probably be a decade-long process for each of us in electrifying our stuff? And how can I make you feel like being in that process, wherever you are contributing to climate action? And how can I make sure that you might meet folks that are not like you, that live in a different spot than you? And this can be a really humanizing and exciting experience. So that is that. This QR code, if you want to hold your phone up to it, will get you right to the website, but you've got my digits there as well. So I will stop sharing and I will just open it up and see what kind of questions that might spark for you.
Marty's got a question for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Matt, this was Andrew at Upper Peninsula Power Company. I like how you focus on the fun, low cost, and affordable pieces. Mm-hmm. What are some of those technologies that you encourage people to look at?
Yeah, great question. Let me screen share again, and I'll just sort of zoom you in to the actual tool that we use. So, in fact, let's see if I can find Will. I don't know if I have Will's stuff on here. Let me zoom in here and show you. So, you know, if you're familiar with the Electrifying America guide, this is basically in orange, we have the type of power you're using. In yellow, we have appliances. In blue, we have vehicles. And in pink, we have solar and backup storage. So those are the big ticket items. And then this purple list is kind of constantly evolving. But this is an example, Andrew, of some of the things that folks either pick from this list or add to. So you can see Williams LED swap is a very low cost baby step. Some cost nothing. Like we've had some folks challenge themselves to go out and just test drive an electric car, rent an e-bike, rent an electric car with something like Turo, buy a watt meter, buy a Wi-Fi smart switch and automate something that's, you know, sucking a lot of ampere power. Smart thermostats are getting up into 3-digit numbers, but if you've got a local utility subsidizing that, that can be a $50 item. We've also offered to folks, hey, we will finance anything on this list. If you don't have the $100 to do it, I will lend you the money and then you can pay me back over, you know, the next year or two, because it's that important to me that, you know, you just get a taste of this and you can participate. So, you know, there's clearly, you know, financing opportunity here for, you know, a lender that might want to get to know a borrower at these 2, 3, 4-digit investment levels, and they would be there with them if they've shown them some interest and some capacity to, you know, be a good borrower for the big ticket items up on this list. So does that make sense?
That makes sense perfectly. Thank you, Matt. And here in Michigan, we have Michigan Saves, which right now is financing the bigger ticket items. So that might be an opportunity to expand for all of the utilities serving Michigan customers, is to get them to work with you on those fun, low cost items if you haven't already.
No, I think that's one of the things that William and I have talked so much about, and why I find this conversation so fascinating is I think, you know, we've got some purchase with folks on the LED swaps because of those subsidies, and then we've got some purchase with folks on the big ticket items. And as you said, like there's a lot of financing rallying around those. I think the missing space is in between, and where you can find that, you know, sweet spot overlap of something really fun and really not that expensive.
Thank you again. I'll let others ask now.
Yeah, Martin, you want me to hit Martin's question, which was thumbs up? That is a verb. I just made it up. what extent do we emphasize building? Shell, it's a great question, Martin. We put efficiency upgrades in that top left corner of not that fun and kind of complicated and not necessarily affordable. I know there's a lot of subsidies. You know, I participated them in here. There's a lot. These are one of these things that utilities have provided. I just don't consider it the thing I want to lead with. And so, you know, heat pumps just straight up heat pumps without the efficiency. I think that's just, we're not leading with that. A lot of folks come to us completely overwhelmed by one or two of those two connected topics. We know that efficiency and envelope upgrades matter, but we consider it sort of a second and third order item, and we don't really sweat it in these early stages. I want someone to get excited about the topic and know that we will work with them on that. So I have folks in my class right now who are sweating upgrades, and I'm actually have a student who's coming over to my house today, so I can show him my Reno, and we're going to walk over to his house this afternoon and look at that. So he's an example of a student where I will include that envelope upgrade because he is doing a full retrofit on the house. But the typical student, I'll say, don't sweat that right now. Let's worry about that once we've gotten a couple of wins under our belt.
Anybody else have anything? There's nothing else in the chat right now, Matt.
Yeah, I'm checking. I'm keeping an eye on it. So yeah, I just want to shout William out for his partnership. I just think, you know, having that relationship with so many customers who he mentioned a book called Crossing the Chasm, which I don't know if any of y'all have read, Jeffrey Moore's 1980s masterpiece on how human beings engage with new types of technology. He and I have been talking a little bit about that book. And, you know, I think what we find in Moore's research, which has been used, probably overused, frankly, in the software development field, is this acknowledgement that, you know, most folks aren't really going to take the time out of their lives to use your crappy technology in its early iterations. And so you need to find folks who are willing to experiment and work with you, and, you know, just delighting that first 2% of early adopters is really critical. And I think the way I think about that is I want to make damn sure that I am engaging with people across the socioeconomic and background spectrum, so that, you know, I don't believe we have sort of established that an early adopter in personal electrification is someone with $50,000 to burn and a house that they own. And that to me is a real problem. And I think that's what we're trying to fix. That's a crappy answer to Jeffrey Moore's question of go find the people who are most interested in testing out this new world with you. Done right, that first step that you allow that early adopter to take is a step available to everybody. And so, you know, that's one of the things I'm kind of obsessed with in this work.
Well, I'd like to also let Will know how much I appreciate him organizing this and acknowledge the difficulties we encountered when I was trying to figure out what time zone we're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's Matt's fault. That's Matt's fault as a central time zone guy. So appreciate your flexibility, Brad. It's really a blast.
Not at all. I appreciate you making the effort and putting this together for us today. I have Matt's and Will's. We'll put his contact information up in the chat, and I have Matt's contact information too. So if anybody's interested in going direct with them, certainly do so. And if anybody else have anything, we're actually going to get done on time. I can't believe it. That never happens. And so if not, thanks to all the presenters today. I mean, I kind of like overloaded everybody with information, and so now you need a couple of days just to digest everything. But I will be getting the slides out to everybody, and we will do this again next month. July 7th, I'll get a calendar invite out to everybody, and we will, unless you hear differently, we'll go back to our normal time of starting at 9 in the morning Eastern time. And so thanks again to Will and Matt and Gina and Andrea this morning. And we will definitely be in hear from Andrea again next month too. So thanks all for joining us today. And with that, I'll let everybody go. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks,
Thanks, William.
guys.